Chair and ladies and gentlemen, none other than Professor Wenger once observed, the community has viewed women's health almost with a bikini approach, looking essentially at the breast and the reproductive system and almost ignoring the rest of the woman as part of women's health, unquote. How appropriate she's chairing the session. No wonder CAD is underappreciated, underestimated, under-researched, underdiagnosed, and undertreated. And there are myths galore. Men are more prone when 50,000 more women than men die of heart disease. And even, unfortunately, we, the doctors, are not aware about the correct statistics. And these apocryphal myths, they turn into perceptions and observed realities for the society. Brian just mentioned, cancer is perceived as the biggest killer when CAD kills 2 times more women. So that is the biggest challenge today to CAD and especially for CABG in women. Now, a lot of subjectivity about this. Let's come to a little more objective challenges. One, women are underrepresented in studies. Earlier, we never had any women, but even if you look at the recent Canadian database, only 15 to 25% were women. We have already talked of atypical presentation, late presentation with subtle symptoms, and more prevalence of risk factors. But one which is most important is that besides a higher prevalence, diabetes has a stronger negative influence in women as compared to men. And that has to be appreciated. Then there are physiological differences. They have impaired coronary flow reserve. They have impaired vasoreactivity and microvascular dysfunction. And almost 70% of the women demonstrate this kind of vasomotor dysfunction as compared to barely 40% men. And bypass surgery does not address this component of CAD. It may take care of the obstructive element, but not the microvascular element. Also, FFR study, we don't have data for CABG, the study is ongoing, but extrapolating the PCI data, they have less number of functionally significant stenosis for the same number of the anatomically significant stenosis. Professor Palajani mentioned about the size. Well, even the Indian heart, be it man or a woman, both are smaller than the Western hearts. And if you normalize the body surface area, then women have 9% lower coronary artery size than men. And in one study coming from Cleveland, look at mid-LAD size, virtually twice in men as compared to women. So that's a very important thing. Also, something which is relevant to us in India, not observed in the Western world, we find that the Indian coronaries are more subject to inflammatory changes as shown by immunohistochemical stained histopathological studies which show a lot of infiltration of macrophages, and this creates technical difficulties for the surgeon. Then we have upfront diagnostic dilemmas in the various algorithms that are available for diagnosis in these patients. There is a gender difference in accuracy of the various tests we use. And most important here, a caveat that I want to issue, women here too, even in the studies looking at the various modalities of investigation, are underrepresented to this extent, 8 versus 92 men, 22 versus 78 men. So women are underrepresented. But whatever data we have, ECG is not a reliable test, and probably the most sensitive is the gated nuclear scan, and technetium 99 and Sestamebe is probably the single most important study that should be used in these patients. What are the CABG outcomes? Well, the early outcomes, earlier the mortality was 2 times. Lately, this has attenuated to some extent, but it has not been obliterated. And even in recent data, the women are almost 1.3 times higher risk than men folk. And that is why in both Euroscore and the STO score, female gender is included as a risk factor for MACE. It's been shown in a number of studies, odds ratio almost varying between 1.3 to 1.5. And in our own data of 3,500, which we published in Indian Heart Journal, the in-hospital mortality in the women was almost 3% against 1.8 in the men. This is across the board, and it also included our on-pump series. This has not changed over a period of time. That was the data of 2011. You look at 2-month-old data, early mortality, 2.7% versus 2%. So there is no question there is a gender bias against the women. And it is not just coronary artery disease or CABG. We see that bias for PCI. We see it for AVR, for mitral valve replacement. So it's for all facets of cardiac surgery, whether it is the higher prevalence of the risk factors. Is it because of the smaller coronary artery size, as Professor Palejani just mentioned? Is it because of less use of the arterial grafts that I'm going to allude to in a very short while? Higher microvascular dysfunction and higher thrombogenicity that women have all been implicated for this. It has been shown smaller LAD size increases technical challenges and it attenuates the beneficial effect of IMA. So there is an issue with that. Also, women have got incomplete revascularization. Number of these studies, you should see the number of grafts in the women is less than men. 3 versus 3.3, 2.8 versus 3, and same we notice in all meta-analysis, including the Syntax trial, where women received less number of grafts even than when the patients were being operated by the best of the surgeons. And that's why that translates into increased repeat revascularization in these women and impaired long-term results. Now, what are the long-term results in women? Up to 1 year, we find women are laggards as compared to men. The MACE rates are as high as 1.5 times more than the men. But surprisingly, beyond 1 year, you go to 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and even 20 years analysis has been reported by Kurlansky. We find women and men are no different. So the problem is in perioperative and the first 1 year, and if you cross that, then you're fine. Look at the long-term survival curves, exactly the same. And in fact, again, a very recent study a few weeks back in the Scandinavian database-based series, long-term survival was better in women as compared to men for no reason which were, for reasons which were not, hypothesized. However, women in the follow-up period are more prone to readmission, maybe related to incomplete revascularization, and more prone to myocardial infarction. Most of them are non-fatal. And that's why it does not translate into impaired survival. So they get more MI, more readmissions for various reasons, whether it is incomplete revascularization, whether it is reduced coronary size, but they perform inferior to the men. Also, quality of life for women is worse. Their physical functioning is less, and their depressive symptoms are more, and it has been shown in a number of studies. And lastly, ladies and gentlemen, I know you are not a surgical crowd, but just because the word was CABG challenges and I didn't know how much to go into CABG, for those interested, I'll put up a few technical details. We have a difference in the conduits between the two. The women, the Saphenous vein, have been used, the word is between apostrophes, delicate and friable. They have increased vasoreactivity, and that may be related to the hormonal receptors in the blood vessels. And this vasoreactivity is not only for veins. It is exhibited even in arterial grafts, and you see internal mammary artery is more sensitive to alpha-adrenergic stimuli provided by phenylephrine and endothelin-1. So that may be one reason for poor outcome of these women. Also, we find women receive less arterial grafts. Now that seems to be changing, and if you look at data from the last 3 or 4 years, we find women are almost approaching men as far as use of single mammary is concerned. Almost 88% of the women are receiving one mammary as against 90% in the men. So they're catching up. But bilateral IMA, the women are still lagging behind. And even if you look at the STS database, half the women receive bilateral mammaries as compared to the men. Even when it has been proven by certain expert centers that they have equivalent mortality and morbidity, and the results are pretty good. However, there is a caveat there, and that caveat is that there is increased risk of deep sternal wound infection, and that occurs, you see, women is a very strong odds ratio towards deep sternal wound infection, insulin-dependent diabetes, and perivascular disease. They lead to more deep sternal wound infection. However, if skeletonization of the mammary is carried out, this disadvantage is totally neutralized. So that's why today, skeletonized mammary, bilateral mammaries, women gender is not an incremental risk factor. However, though we find the red line is use of bilateral IMA in women and blue in men, both are increasing usage of bilateral IMAs, but women still remain inferior to men as far as usage of bilateral IMAs are concerned. But there is no doubt, even in women, bilateral IMAs do portend survival advantage, and therefore they should be used. What about the second conduit? No question, Saphenous vein is a bad conduit, should be used only if push comes to shove. Either we use a second IMA, the Taggart's ART trial in their as treated analysis showed that there is a benefit of the second IMA, and there is increased patency of radial artery in women. So that's the only thing in which nature has been kind to the women, that radial artery has better results in women as compared to men. So we should look at second IMA or a radial artery as the second conduit. Saphenous vein, even a direct head-to-head comparison with the radial artery, 36% drop in 15-year mortality with radial artery, and angiography patency rates of radial artery much better than Saphenous vein. In fact, in lots of expert centers, total arterial revascularization is being done in 1/4 of the women with very salutary results. What about off-pump versus pump? Well, it's been shown by Puskas, by Mack, so many people that off-pump reduce mortality and morbidity in women. Even in our own study, we found off-pump mortality in women was virtually reduced by 1/3 as compared to pump mortality, and was equivalent to the men's mortality if off-pump is used. So that's an important mode of treatment. It reduces bleeding, respiratory complication, and CNS complications. So ladies and gentlemen, in My Fair Lady, Professor Higgins says, why can't a woman be like a man? Well, that's a wishful thinking. I wish it could be a utopian thought. But as Professor Palejani said, women are from Mars and men from Venus, or vice versa. I don't know from where. The slide has gone. I think I have, yeah. They have more atypical presentation. We should do more arterial grafts. They have increased early mortality, but same late survival, and we should be as aggressive with anything and everything for women as for men. Thank you.
Insights from the world's best medical minds. You are watching therightdoctors.com.